I took on a feeling.
So yeah,
I am believing.
you can just jam the whole time.
I want Hilary Swank in the next Terminator movie so bad.
There is nothing in this world that you give me to do to hug a robot.
It's because it's so incredible and intricate that it's impossible not to notice.
Music's the core of this movie.
I was born again to watch this movie.
You'll find redeeming things and you'll be thinking about it for a long time afterwards.
There was no bone saw.
Just John hamming it up over here.
2.5 out of 3 of us recommend it.
Everybody loves talking about movies. Let's talk about movies.
Welcome to the Pause Rewind Play podcast. We are so pumped to have you here. Actually, for all of you who voted over the past week and some, it is time for the announcement of the winner. Oh, well, you already know. That's why you're here.
If you clicked on this podcast, you know who it was.
We're talking Avengers Endgame.
We're in the end game now.
I don't know, you got that theme on my mind now.
John Cena's in the house. Just kidding, he's not in this film. But anyhow, we're talking Avengers Endgame today. It won, and Vince called it right from the beginning.
I think Josh is the one who...
All of us called it.
we just all collectively knew.
We
We were basically like, we'll
hopes.
see if anything other than Endgame wins.
If we hadn't lost that coin toss, Thor Ragnarok would have put up a better fight than Infinity War.
So Infinity War put up a lot better fight than I thought it would. On Instagram, Endgame only was beating Infinity War by 2 votes. It was like 18 to 16 on Instagram. So it was like neck and neck.
People like Infinity War as much as Endgame, huh?
Kind of, yeah. But then on Twitter, Endgame destroyed Infinity War.
There we go.
I can actually see why you would like one or the other.
I do love the ending of Infinity War more than I love... we'll get into that. But I loved how Infinity War ended on a downer note of them losing. You know, you don't see that in a Marvel movie ever.
I love that so freaking much.
Yeah.
Because I always want the bad guy to win once in a while. I want a good show where it's especially Marvel, which is owned by Disney. How often does a bad guy win in a Disney film? Not ever, except in Infinity War.
And even though they obviously went back and showed that he really was a bad guy and all of that stuff, I couldn't have been the only person who was watching Infinity War and Thanos is talking and I'm slightly tilting my head he's not all that wrong.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's the thing though, is everyone's kind of you have days where you're yep, Thanos, I need that snap right away. But then what's really funny
every morning during traffic. Why isn't this working?
Need that gauntlet, man.
You bought the gauntlet and you're like...
How great would that be to be driving down the freeway and just see someone with the gauntlet on doing this?
Come on!
Well, the best would be is if you're driving in traffic, you just have a gauntlet in your car to pull up when someone cuts you off or they're doing kind of a dick move and you're just kind of you pull up the gauntlet, you look at them, you're like...
It's the new flipping the bird.
Yeah. Actually, instead of flipping the bird, I give people big thumbs up, good job.
Yeah, make them feel stupid.
And I shame them into ooh, because
if Casey flips them off with his right hand.
I'm like this. No one can see
That's
that righty. A thumb up and a bird up invisibly. No, guys, I'm not gonna lie. What a good bracket this was, though. I really enjoyed myself because going through it, it reminded me, for instance. I forgot that Edward Norton was the original Hulk because sometimes I remember Bruce Banner. Is that who it is? Banner. No, Banner.
Chris.
The Banner guy who played in the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk film, right? You remember that one? It was terrible.
Is his name Bruce Banner?
It's Banner. It's
it's Banner.
Eric Banner.
Eric
Bruce
Banner. That's
Banner.
what it is. I was
Bruce
going to say. I was like, that is way too coincidental. The name.
Hey, let's get Bruce Banner.
We want to make this movie about Bruce Banner. Who should we get? I got the guy. We don't even have to change his name.
Just say it with a New York accent.
Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner. Get some pizza with Bruce Banner. I don't know. I don't even know what that sounds like. But no, it was fun to kind of go through the Marvel universe a little bit and just kind of, I don't know if the right word is reminisce or get a good refresher on Marvel has progressed so much. I remember Iron Man. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but Iron Man was just I was down with anything they came out with after the original Iron Man. And then where are we at now? 20 films later? A huge cinematic universe.
I think we have 23 films out now. I think this was number 22.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure because Yeah, sorry. There was 23 films.
You guys are the experts. I don't know.
I just remember because I did the bracket, and so I had to do the seating. And let me tell you, creating a bracket for 23 people is a very weird to put together bracket to make sure that the seatings are in the correct places. So,
someone gets a bye right off the bat, right?
So 9 of the movies got buys off of the bat. So that's just such a weird number. And then to make sure that you're matching them up with the right places, it was weird.
Well, anyhow, Josh, thank you for setting this up, and I'm glad that we've done it. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I expressed my creativity through creating stuff for the Instagram and stuff like that, but also it's been just so much fun to see what people are talking about and see what people are saying about these films as we create them, and
there were a number of surprises along the way. What do you guys what was your biggest surprise for a movie that
Thor Ragnarok making it all the way to the quarterfinals? I love Thor Ragnarok, but I was like, wow, it's amazing.
All the way to the quarterfinals, and just by the flip of a coin didn't make it all the way to the semifinals, actually. And just by the flip of a coin didn't make it to the final.
I cried a little bit after that coin toss.
I was surprised at how people love the team up films. They seem to love the team up films more than they love the standalone films. All of the Avengers ones made it relatively far. Even Ultron, which it's not one of the stronger movies. I mean, it's not bad. None of them are bad, but it's not one of the stronger Marvel movies, and it still got farther than I thought it would.
Ultron won its first matchup, and it lost its second, and it might have won again, except for its second matchup was against our champion, Endgame.
Yeah.
So. And so the 4 semifinalists, the final 4 were Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, and Thor Ragnarok, which is also a team up with
Avengers
Hulk.
1, Avengers Infinity War, Endgame, and Ragnarok.
Yep.
Yeah, people love those team ups.
Yeah, exactly.
Why didn't Justice League work, guys?
There are many
Actually,
reasons.
I really enjoyed the Justice League film.
Shut your dirty mouth.
I did.
Casey.
We do not speak.
Casey, we want our podcast to have credibility.
Do not say good things about that movie.
I said I enjoy talking movies. I didn't say that I was a credible source of information.
Doesn't matter if the movie was good or not. It's because of
we want
personal
to let us into
reasons we
Sundance.
cannot admit anything other than that it was bad.
Okay, here's what it was. It wasn't a great film, but I enjoyed watching it. There you go. You guys just your guys are both gonna unfollow me tonight on social, unfriend me. You're never gonna come back to my house. I get it. Should we talk about this movie?
Maybe we'll just both move away.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why do you think I'm going to Texas?
I'm so hurt right
You're
now.
just kidding.
Josh
Casey.
moved away. Vince is moving to Texas. Here I am, sitting on my own. Gonna be recording in a lonely room by myself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But anyhow, let's kind of dive in. Let's talk about this film. I guess here before we dive in, Josh, were you at all surprised that Endgame won?
I was not surprised that Endgame won in the slightest. I was surprised who ended up making it to the final matches. I was very surprised and also sort of a little personally hurt that Guardians of the Galaxy and Black Panther did not make it as far as I had hoped.
I also expected Guardians of the Galaxy to get farther.
Same.
Which Guardians of the Galaxy was very close. So Infinity War made it to the final, right, against Avengers Endgame, but it had a couple of very close calls. So not as close a call, but it did beat out Captain America Civil War in its first matchup. Sort of close, but not really. And then its second matchup was against Guardians of the Galaxy, and it won by 2 votes. It was 23-21 or something. And then against Thor Ragnarok, it was the one that tied, and it ended up moving on because of the coin flip. So it squeaked its way by, and so I was really sad that Guardians and Black Panther didn't make it as far. It was a travesty. But the people want what they want.
Vince, were you surprised?
No, not in the slightest. I knew it was going to be Endgame immediately. How recently this one came out, it's so fresh on everybody's mind. Not to mention just it's a good movie, and that ending is just so memorable. Some of the coolest stuff we've seen in the Marvel universe. I had no doubt it would be Endgame.
I had high hopes, but I was right there with you. I knew it would be Endgame. And so I actually watched it before the competition was over. I'm not going to lie to you guys because I was like, Endgame is coming. We watched Guardians 1 and Guardians 2 because we were so disappointed that they didn't like make it farther. And then I was like, well, going to watch Endgame. So.
I did as well. Since we were doing this podcast episode fairly recently after the voting was going to close, I set up the Twitter one and Casey set up the Instagram one, and I checked the scores 2 hours into it, and I pressed play on Endgame. Even though, like I said, it did remain fairly close on Instagram for a while, I still
saw it coming.
We knew who would reign supreme. So here we are.
Here we are. Well, let's dive in. Let's actually talk this film.
Let's just say spoiler warning from here on out if you have not seen Endgame, right?
Do we want to do... We can talk... I remember we talked about a few things, so before spoilers, we could do our favorite Marvel movies.
Oh, yeah.
That's sort of like a spoiler-free thing that we could do really quick. If you haven't... I mean, I guess there could be some people who haven't seen Endgame. Like my brother.
There are people in existence who haven't seen Endgame. So, folks...
Oh, and I guess I could do the movie info, too.
Yeah,
we still haven't done that.
That's what I was going to get to here
I
in a
forgot
minute.
about that, my bad.
No worries. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's kind of dive in a little bit. Vince has got some movie facts, and we're going to actually do a quick kind of like, hey, here are 3 favorite Marvel films. So, Vince, do you want to kind of walk us through the deets?
So, Avengers Endgame, directed by Joe and Anthony Russo, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, released in April.
His name is McFeely.
Yeah, McFeely. It's fun to listen to like interviews and stuff because it'll be like, yeah, McFeely did, like they just address him by his last name.
It sounds like McLovin, like something that would be in one of those coming of age comedies. It's like there's like a kid walking around the school and his nickname is McFeely because he's just, I don't know, Casanova.
Because he's just McFeeling. That's bad. Moving on.
Get out of here. All right, Vince, keep going. Sorry.
Release date April 26, 2019. This movie was shot back to back with Avengers Infinity War over a 200-day span. So really, really quick. And they even considered doing filming both the movies at once. But they decided that was going to be too much. So they filmed one and then filmed Endgame right after that one. Budget was $356 million. So far, well, let's just say the first, it broke records, guys. This, if you didn't know, this movie broke records. In the first weekend, it broke $1 billion. In 11
only movie to ever do that, by the way, so far.
First and only movie to break $1 billion in 3 days.
Could you imagine making $1 billion in 3 days?
They even will one you up here. In 11 days, they made $2 billion.
What the heck?
And then they went along to reach the 3 billion mark, right? They hit that 3 billion, didn't they? Or was it
They had
just
to
shy?
re-release it,
No.
didn't they?
It
Didn't
was
they
just shy
beat
of it.
out whatever, like
Okay.
Avatar?
They didn't. I'll double check. the
IMDb
facts, but
said
they didn't.
2.7 million. IMDb said 2.7 billion, but for some reason I thought that I remembered seeing headlines saying it reached the 3 billion mark.
I don't think it reached the 3 billion. I think it might have.
Not even on re-release or anything?
No,
Okay.
I think it hit those. I mean, like, yeah. So with the re-release was to like do something to surpass Avatar, right?
2.8 billion. So it was like to push its worldwide tally to 2.7 billion, and then they re-released it to hit that 2.8 billion.
To make
Records,
it
shattering records.
Without inflation, to make it the highest grossing film of all time.
Think anything will ever beat it? What about Avatar 2?
No.
You don't think Avatar 2 will make it?
No.
Avatar 1 was cool when it came out because of the visual effects and everything like that. But its storyline was ho-hum, and people, like, I just feel like the hype for Avatar is not
What it once was.
what it once was. I still look at Avatar and how much money it made and don't understand.
Yeah,
you know?
me neither.
I'm like, how did it make that much money?
It was Dances with
Pocahontas.
Wolves with the Blue Man Group.
It was just Disney's was already doing their live action remakes and they just didn't even know it. Avatar was Pocahontas' live action remake, but somehow it made that much money, you know? I think in the world we live in, there's just too much potential, too many new people doing things, and so much money being put into our main source of entertainment and media. Something will come along. someday.
And push it. Maybe the next Avengers.
And also inflation, you know, but
I don't know. I don't know if even the next Avengers will top it. This had 10-year build up with Iron Man and Captain America. I don't think
because we're in a whole different because who knows? Because they can build something and it could be amazing, but we're in a whole different saga now.
Yeah.
Well, and think about it too. Since the Avengers started, and since kind of all of this has went down, we now have streaming services that actually stream in your living room, and so instead of releasing all the films that they want to, like what are they doing, like Bucky and the Falcon or whatever, and they're doing all these Netflix or these Disney Plus series, right, which are great, but the cultural phenomena, which was going to the theater when they were released and going out with your friends and just being obsessed with these movies while they were in theaters and getting them and then watching them in your basement, that's all changing because I can just turn on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
It's on now. It's cool. All 12 episodes launched at once. But I think Disney Plus is like going to be launching things, releasing things in a smart way, just like they did The Mandalorian, right? But I don't necessarily know that it's going to be as big of a thing in the following like big meetup film.
We can only hope. I don't want to lose that experience. That was so much fun of Endgame.
Yeah.
I remember the days before Endgame came out, just so much anticipation to go to the theater to see what would be like the biggest movie of basically my entire lifetime. I won't even say maybe, like definitely the biggest movie of my entire lifetime.
Until Avatar 2 comes out.
No. Stop. Which leads me to one of the fun facts that I had. This movie obviously made the most money of any movie in history. It also spent one of the highest. I don't think I read it wasn't like the highest, but it spent some of the highest ever in movie history. It was like 365 or 385 million. Do you have that?
IMDb said 356, but they're
still,
pretty.
though,
yeah, they're pretty
ginormous amounts of money.
Yeah.
200 million of it, so more than half, was just on marketing.
On marketing, wow.
$200 million for marketing for this movie.
Wow.
So you think about it. So obviously an extremely large portion of that is Avengers Endgame Super Bowl commercial.
Okay.
Which I don't remember if they did a 30-second or they might have even like gone like a full minute commercial during the Super Bowl. But I remember that they did that. And then everything leading up to it, if you remember, there was like all of these Avenge the Fallen commercials.
All these like trailers that didn't show anything. They did it perfectly.
Exactly. It was amazing. So,
that's a lot of money to spend on marketing for a guaranteed win.
Exactly. For something that you know everyone is like already waiting and dying to see. I'll double check. I put it here. Yep. So yeah, so it did say, I just messed it up. $356 million, more than $200 million was spent on the marketing campaign for this film.
Holy crap, that is so much.
That is madness.
It's freaking crazy.
All right, Vince, what's our next stats?
Moving on. Critic score. They've given it 94%. Audience gave it a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb, 8.5. And this movie has one Oscar nomination. It was nominated for visual effects. And it is starring pretty much everyone. in the in the movie industry. I wrote here, might be faster to say who's not in the film.
Basically.
Who's not in the film?
So I didn't write down the names. Everyone knows the big names. I don't think we need to go down the ginormous list.
Hugh Jackman wasn't in this, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
What a cast though, like to bring. I know that not everyone it was on set at the same time, but what a cast to like get everyone together and to create this film that was just, how many days did you say it was? 256 days of streaming?
I think it was 200 days back to back to back to back to back.
Could you just imagine that though? Like still like for two movies, like
it's almost a solid year of filming. No, it's not. It's like half a year of filming.
I remember there was a slight interruption when Hurricane Irma hit, but besides that, they were basically filming for like a ton of time straight.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But they all got freaking ginormous paychecks.
Oh, I also saw Chris Hemsworth actually out. He beat out Robert Downey Jr. as the highest paid actor on set.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
First Marvel movie that someone's been able to do.
I saw something that I didn't see Robert Downey Jr., but I saw that both Chris Hemsworth and Chris Evans made. I saw that both of them made $15 million. And I think just for Endgame, I don't even know about if that was for both or if it was. I'm pretty sure it's just for Endgame.
I remember over the past 10 years that Robert Downey Jr.'s paycheck for these movies were just like the topic of conversation because he was getting paid so much for them before they had to like rework his contract. He was making so much money on these movies.
It's crazy.
Did you guys? Sorry, I don't mean to like throw it to something that we're not actually talking about, but just on the focus of money and everything like that. Did you guys know that the highest paid actor in Iron Man was the guy who I don't know his name? I feel super bad, but the original James Rhodes.
Really? The original Rhodey?
Because he was one of the first, not one of the first, like basically the first big name actor to sign.
Terrence Howard?
I think so.
That's his name. Yeah, Terrence Howard.
And it wasn't by like a little bit. He was the highest paid actor in Iron Man by a lot.
Is that why they didn't bring him back? He wanted money?
Yeah, because he would have had to take, he said, a 50 to 60% cut in his check to do Iron Man 2. And so they said no. Which, thank goodness, because I love Don Cheadle.
Yeah, me too. He's really good.
Like, don't get me wrong.
Are those the only two actors who have been replaced in the series? Is Bruce Banner and Rhodey? Can you guys think of anybody off the top of your head? I think everyone else has come back for the rest of the series, right? Unless they've just kind of been.
They'll just like faded out.
Yeah.
Or done something else. I'm pretty sure. I can't think of
That's
anyone
pretty
else.
impressive.
But I wouldn't doubt if something like that has happened. Well, I mean, they've got the bucks to pay people what they want.
I mean, they're making money.
Yep.
That's
getting the cheddar
so
cheese.
much money. Yeah. Any more facts we want to spit out, or
no? But before we go into spoilers, I just want to remind you guys that when Endgame came out, the Russo brothers pushed out a letter to the fans asking, please, please, please don't spoil this movie for people. And I just thought that was really cool.
I remember that. It was like, we've all waited or something like that. Like, don't spoil the end game.
Yeah, they had a hashtag. It was hashtag don't spoil the end game. And Thanos demands your silence.
I was about to say that one. Hashtag Thanos demands your silence. All right.
That's right.
Should we do our top threes real quick before we jump fully into spoiler territory?
Yep.
Yeah, let's do that. Josh, what's up for you?
All right. So I felt super basic because looking at the rankings that were assigned based on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic and IGN and everything like that, my top three actually ended up being the top three of our Marvel bracket, which I felt like super basic, but I stood by them. So number 3 for me, my third favorite, is Black Panther. Super amazing. I love it. Such a good story, and really the first superhero movie that has really broken into the Best Picture category in the Oscar, and by all means, well deserved. Obviously, I didn't think it deserved to win, but it deserved a lot of things.
Incredible music, incredible set design, incredible costuming, lackluster VFX.
What's his name? Ludwig Göransson, I think, is the guy who did the score. He also did music for Community, which I'll have another Community fun fact later. And then what else? He did The Mandalorian
and Creed.
Oh, and the reason I remember is because he's also doing the music for Tenet, the upcoming Christopher Nolan film.
He's good.
He's so good. So I'm super excited for that. Number 2 is not an original score, but easily the best soundtrack in any Marvel movie ever. Guardians of the Galaxy.
I took on a feeling.
So yeah.
I am believing.
You can just jam the whole time. You can love Chris Pratt. I can watch it with my wife so she can love Chris Pratt while I just enjoy the movie. Guardians of the Galaxy is such an amazing movie. So sad that it lost out and didn't get further, but I just love it. And then even though it seems cliche as anything, it was all building to this, and it never, in a single moment of the movie, failed to pay off. Avengers Endgame is my favorite Marvel movie. They just did it all. It's amazing. And we'll talk about why, but incredible. Case.
What a list. First off, I would like to start out with Iron Man, which I brought up earlier.
Woo.
Iron Man really...
Original. Yeah, he's the original, right?
He is the OG.
That's a Sunny reference. I hope someone gets it.
Even though he's not the first Avenger.
No, he's not. That was Captain America, which I also loved, but didn't make the list. So Iron Man, yeah, I just loved Iron Man. It was just rock, like he was kind of this, what does he call himself, a billionaire playboy philanthropist? Like, Love it. It's gonna make baby models and baby bottles and sleep at night just fine. So I was like, I could live that life. Still not a billionaire though. Next, Thor Ragnarok. I love all the Thor films, but Thor Ragnarok was the one that kind of matched my personality and my mindset the most. Like what goes on in my mind was Thor Ragnarok. It was like
a lot of colors and
a trash
and a
planet.
Jeff Goldblum.
Hand me the staff, the goop staff.
Really quick, fun reference to our film from Thor Ragnarok. People loved like Thor Ragnarok and how funny it was and how light it was and how good the music was, that they thought it was like Guardians of the Galaxy, and so fans playfully gave it the nickname of As Guardians of the Galaxy because it was Thor Ragnarok, which in Endgame at the very end, not really a spoiler, Thor like casually and nonchalantly uses the term As Guardians.
I didn't know that's where it came from. That's cool. I just assumed it was a comic that they were pulling from. Huh.
I didn't know that either. And then I want to go with Guardians of the Galaxy as my number one because like you said already, soundtrack, the cast. I'm actually writing a blog post about this, and it's going to be finished tonight. And Ali's going to edit it and put it up because what I loved about it is the cast for Guardians of the Galaxy. I felt meshed so much more naturally than the rest of the teams because like they bring them together in such a way that you have to be friends, and then they like jab at each other, and it's comedic, the music value, like the whole thing of that. And then my what do you call it, honorable mention, Endgame. Like it's my honorable mention, so it's there, but
not on the top 3, but it's honorable.
Yep, honorable. I mean, just like Thanos till the end, he knew it was his time. Okay,
Vince.
I'm with you. Guardians of the Galaxy is on my list too. I think it's easily top, like it's probably one of my favorite movies. Like it's fun to go back to. It's rewatchable. The characters are charming. They made John Bautista made his career, you know.
Dave Bautista.
Or yeah, what did I say?
John
Cena Bautista.
Cena.
Sorry, I got him on my head.
The Invisible
John
Man.
Bautista.
Yeah, they gave like that started his career. We got him in Blade Runner after that. Now he's done a couple of little comedy dubs.
He's
Stuber,
like,
right?
He's
So he was in Stuber, but then there's also one, who knows if it'll be a dub or a dud that's coming out this month called My Spy or something.
He's kind of doing the Rock thing right now. Or I think he needs to. He started out real strong, where he's like, "No, I'm gonna choose the roles I'm gonna do," and he did some really cool, like I said, like Blade Runner and stuff. And now he's kind of like cashing in that check, you know. But yeah, Guardians is an amazing movie. Endgame is also on mine. Just
Do you have an order or just the top
of it?
3?
I just have top 3. And my third is depending on the day. Because I absolutely
That's
love...
cheating.
I know. Ugh.
So a series of honorable mentions.
Love Winter Soldier, and I love Civil War. And I
Civil
can't
War's
decide
so
which one I'd put over the other one. Because I love how... I love everything about Winter Soldier, but I think Civil War has some of my favorite specific scenes in the entire universe, and then it has some of the stuff that I could be like, this is really cool, but I could cut this out. Like the whole airport scene, really, really fun, but I'm watching Civil War for that small drama between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers involving Bucky. That's where it's so strong, you know, and then it
so
goes big and then
crazy,
it comes
man.
back small again, you know. So it goes back and forth on those two. I love both of them so much.
Those are good.
Oh man,
I love the Winter Soldier actually.
I want to watch so many Marvel movies.
The first time I really felt seen in a movie.
Got that one arm.
Got that one arm representation.
Hey, yeah.
As always, it's important, but also I'm saying that very satirically. I'm sorry, but yeah, no, it's all those are good. Are we in spoiler territory now?
This is the spoiler alert.
Spoiler
If you haven't seen Endgame, do yourself a favor and watch it.
Thanos allows your voice.
And also, you want to see America's ass.
Apparently, IMDb said there was some controversy behind that. Apparently, it offended some people or something. I didn't look into it. As one of their stupid little trivia
If you
things.
say
It's
a
just like,
swear
that's
word
dumb. I rolled my eyes
in a
and I moved
movie,
forward.
if you say a swear word in a movie, there will be some people that
Is that
know
what it is?
So, actually, I don't know what the actual controversy is.
I didn't look into it. I rolled my eyes and I just moved on.
What a weird thing. So, guys, what are we talking about with this? Like, Endgame won.
Endgame won, and I love it. And even though like we said, we talked about a lot of films, I think the Endgame was super, super deserving of the top spot. You always worry about these ginormous franchises with everything they do. It builds to a pinnacle moment. And we as moviegoers just have loved and have admired these films for so long. And when it builds to one moment, you expect so much. And Endgame, for me, it completely delivered.
Yeah.
And it delivered in a way, not only was it everything that we were looking for action-wise, it surprised everyone. I mean, obviously in Infinity War at the very end, Thanos snaps his fingers and half of the people in the world turn to dust, and we're there sort of like half crying, just like, what's going on? And so you expect, as you see in the trailers, this ginormous film that's going to be about them, like basically like tracking down, defeating Thanos, all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. In the first like 10 minutes of the movie, the Infinity Stones are gone and Thanos is dead.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wait a second, like stop. That happens in the first 10 minutes. I remember the first time I watched it and I'm like, this movie is 3 hours long. What are the other 2 hours and 50 minutes going to be about? Like, because obviously that wasn't it, but you're just like, what is going to, Thanos is dead in the first 10 minutes of the movie. What is going to happen? And so not only did they do an amazing job telling this story, and it was funny the way Marvel does and everything, they threw you for basically the biggest loop they could have done right at the beginning. Hey, you know the villain? He's dead. Like right there at the beginning. And so you're like, wait, what happens now?
I think one of the biggest, like the one of the worst things in this type of franchise is when they introduce an idea and it's really, really cool idea and they cover it for 5 minutes in the next movie and then they move on to the next big idea and they never reference that kind of thing again. They kind of do that in this one, but they did it in such a good way where Infinity War ends, everyone's dead, half the world is gone, you know, and it I don't know how long that beginning, you know, montage of leading up to the decapitation of Thanos happens, but we talked about like what are our favorite scenes of the movie, you know, and it's kind of like Terminator where I was just like going through and I'm like, wow, every portion of this movie is my favorite scene of the movie. I love how they start this where Infinity War ends on this somber tone and then Endgame starts and it's like Hawkeye hanging out with his kids and you have this kind of happy moment, but you know, like this tone, this dread, you know what's about to happen to his family, you know they're about to vanish. Sure enough, they disappear, and then it moves on to like the consequences of what this snap happened. It shows the city and it's empty and there's cars everywhere and there's not enough people to clean up anything because there's just like no one, there's just people
Half
trying
the
to pick up
world
their
is
lives. And it goes to Cap, and he's
Even
like,
after 5 years.
yeah, 5 years, and they still haven't cleaned any of this stuff up, you know? Go to Cap, and he's like, doesn't know what to do with himself. He's just like in, what is it, like
a little therapy group.
Yeah, therapy group, just trying to help people, trying to do good still in his own way, trying to help people cope with this problem. And it's just like, I love that it lets you sit on this, like, and it makes you think about like what happened, and like you said, watching Infinity War and kind of agreeing with Thanos, and like Cap's the first one to say that, you know, he's trying to make good of a bad situation and starts looking at the silver linings. And when he goes to visit Nat, Black Widow, you know, he's like, you know, on my way over here I saw whales in the bay. When's the last time we saw that?
Yeah.
You know, it's just like maybe some good can come of this, as much as it is this terrible thing. They just did such a good job to make you like see how it could be good, even though it's terrible, and you kind of feel conflicted, and it just makes you sit on it and think about it, and I love it.
Fun fact about the Hawkeye scene right at the very beginning, the scene was also considered, and they almost put it in as one of the very last, if not the very last, shot of Infinity War, but then they decided it would be a better prologue.
Oh, it's such a perfect prologue.
It's a great way to begin this film, and it sets up the story so well because he was just out there on his remote farm with his fam, gone. Like, and it
breaks your heart.
Yeah, and he's like freaking out, right? And then he just changes. Like, he doesn't go looking for the Avengers. He goes on his own mission to solve and fix things on his own way, and goes on a rampage. And it's just crazy the way that this movie for me was probably in a way, the biggest emotional roller coaster of like starting out so low, then peaking up a little bit, then being like, oh crap. And then like the rise at the end where you're like, that was so good. And this is good. It happened. And we got folks back. And like, we're in spoilers, right? So it was just amazing to see.
Got him back.
Yeah,
We did it, guys.
We did it. Yeah. No, it's just like the feeling of everything in there at the end, though. You're so excited, but you're also broken because of what's happened to, you know, the last person to snap the stones at this point. And it's just,
and then I gotta call out
devastating.
Thor throughout this entire somber moment too. You know, Thor is just like blaming himself for what happens, and bringing it back to the decapitation of Thanos scene. Like the first thing he does, he just chops the dude's head off and doesn't even let him talk, or hand off. Right? They talk, find out the stones are gone, and then he's just, without thinking, he's just like, I'll do what I didn't do before. I'll finish this. Chops his head off and thinks that would solve all of his problems.
I went for the
No,
head.
it does not. You know.
Well, this
was
is
so cool.
This is actually Thor's story in this film is actually my favorite by far. Like Tony's is really good, but Thor's this is probably my favorite scene. Like it has like everything is here, humor, sadness, like that lift up, but also that reaffirmation that it's okay. Like I don't know if I want to go very deep into this, but I'm going to right now. Like
I want to talk about Thor.
yeah, we need to talk about Thor. So right, like Thor's experience is like he has so much guilt from the end of Infinity War, and then he goes and he does what we just talked about, like chops off Thanos' head, and then for the next 5 years he plays video games with Korg and shouts at like Noob Master 69 and drinks a lot. Like he's like coping with like the stress of what he's supposed to be and what he's not, and because of failing essentially at that one point when Thanos says you should have went for the head, and then him chopping off his head and him being like, well, nothing's changed. I did what I could and was supposed to do, but nothing's changed. And then when they get the Infinity Stones and he sees his mother again, who he thinks is the wisest person in the whole galaxy, is kind of how he describes her. And this was actually my favorite quote from the whole movie, is when he's like, Mom, I'm not holding up to this. I'm not who I'm supposed to be. I can't do this. And he's like, he's experiencing what so many people quietly experience, and he's experiencing internally, but he's starting to manifest it. And people are kind of like, he's doing it through humor. He's also like talking about it, sharing it, but he's showing the trauma of the whole thing. And when he talks to his mom says, everyone fails at who they're supposed to be. Thor, a measure of a person, of a hero, is how well they succeed at being who they are. And I thought that was like, for me, I like, oh, it hit me right in the feels, right? Because like of all these movies, like I said, like the Thor franchise is my favorite one, and it's just so powerful to see everything that Thor is. Like from the first movie, he walks in with all that swagger, and he's supposed to be coronated. And then the second movie, he's like in love, but he has doubts, and he's struggling, and he's just fighting through all of this stuff. And then the third movie, you know, he like loses his hammer. You know, oh, one might say that, you know, this hammer was equivalent to a person, and like losing it was like losing a family member, you know. And it was just like going into all of this. And then here he is in this final like capstone of all of these first 10, and he's just like, he's finally like, I don't know if you want to say like breathing, but broken, and he's like trying to figure it out, you know.
And how crappy is that he lost the hammer, the one thing that could tell him whether or not he's still worthy to like be a hero.
Yeah.
Like he, like you said, he aimed for Thanos's chest so he could gloat to Thanos. You know, he lost in the first part of Infinity War and went for the chest so that he could like look Thanos in the eyes and be like, see, I told you I'm better than you. I got this. And then he fails, like because of his own hubris, he fails.
Yeah.
He's got to be blaming himself for so much, and not having the hammer that can tell him that he's still worthy to be a hero. He just like goes into this depression, you know.
That was a beautiful moment too, when he's like, I gotta try this, and he throws out his hand, and Rocket's like, huh? And someone's like, oh, sometimes it takes a minute, and then it's, I'm still worthy.
Yeah.
And
he has
like
that great conversation with his mom, like you said, and then he has that last thing to show him, you know, like even with all your failings, even with all your problems, you're still worthy to be the hero that you are.
Yeah.
Get up off your butt, stop drinking, stop playing Fortnite, and do your thing.
And not only does he do that, because at the end he does still become a hero and everything like that, but he also decides at the very end to make his own path, right? And he mentions the same thing that his mom told him. He says when he's going to, you know, be the Asgardians of the galaxy, he mentions to Valkyrie, since she's going to be the new leader, he says, it's time to me to be who I am and not who I'm supposed to be. So he decides to be him.
And everyone knows who's in charge of that ship. That's a reference to the end of the movie.
Me.
Of course. Me.
Of course.
Of course, we all know who's in charge here, don't we? But like, not to bring like so much humor to the end of that, but like seriously, like Thor's character was like, and I hate to say it, like he was a god, but he was at the same time the most human and relatable of all of them during this franchise. And Rocket, like, can we bring up Rocket as well?
That's what's so cool is like you can do this with every single one of the characters in this movie. You know, you can look at this perfect character arc that they've created. You know, with Tony going from the millionaire, whatever, billionaire philanthropist, cocky, you know, to the person willing to sacrifice himself. With Captain America going from the stubborn army guy to someone who's like willing to let go a little bit. And, you know, like everyone has their perfect character arc.
Can we bring about the perfect callback from the first Avengers? Because there's a lot of callbacks to different moments throughout the series, especially with them literally traveling back in time to help us revisit a lot of the previous movies and a lot of the previous things that have happened. The perfect callback is, I'm sure you guys have all seen, because there was like a meme that would go around when it first came out and everything like that. Back in the very first Avengers, people are mad at each other, people are fighting, people are arguing. And Iron Man, so Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, I'm like mixing all their names up. So Tony Stark and Steve Rogers are up in each other's face, and Steve says to Tony, he says, "You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play," right? Mm-hmm. And in Endgame, what happens? He's the guy who ultimately makes the ultimate sacrifice to make sure that everyone else lives and everything else is happy. And what does Tony say to Steve? Everything special about you came out of a bottle, which he ends up wielding Mjolnir, which obviously is something special beyond that. So perfect callback to that very first Avengers and that big argument they had.
Could you imagine if Cap didn't go through the muscle process and he still got a hold of Mjolnir and that little dude was running around with those lightning abilities?
So was the body double the same for Steve Rogers and Tony at the first of this movie? That's my question. But yeah, wouldn't that be crazy though? Like it's so impressive to see the transformation of each of these characters. Like when Tony arrives finally and he kind of like joins up with the Avengers again, he's like, you know, what does he say? He talks about essentially like bitterness or revenge or something is like poison. Like, let's bury it and move on. And I thought that was a really good way for the two of them to essentially bury the hatchet and kind of move forward and make the Avengers, like, despite it being a little bit short on staff, the greatest force in the galaxy. The Guardians of the Galaxy, you might say.
Hey.
No, I freaking love that though, and gosh, like, and I want to talk about Rocket as well, because what a character, right? Like Rocket Raccoon, like throughout the whole thing up till now has just been very harsh, very like very bitter and all this, and then this movie, like he's like upset, he's like, we're working to get the only family I've ever had back, and like I love that. And then like once Groot's back and everything like that, like when the bombings are coming down, it was like rain, fire, or whatever. Rocket, who's this teeny tiny critter compared to like Groot, is like hiding Groot. He's like, no, don't touch my Groot. And it was like, it's amazing. Like, Endgame deserved this
too. Rocket has that same great story arc where he goes from this guy who just he can do everything on his own. Him and Groot don't need anybody, to being like pushing his family away in the second one, you know, and then into this one, like you said, like being all about his family and recognizing that he needs to step up and protect the people he cares about, not to push them away.
And so in this one, Rocket is good, but I would say that Rocket's best like story, character arc, and best development does come in Guardians 2, when him and Yondu end up sharing that connection that you really realize is so like similar.
That was true. That was good. I watched Guardians the other day, so yeah. Well, Vince, what was your favorite scene of this movie?
Oh, I got lots.
We'll lay them out.
I have to shout out the.
Are we doing like favorite like scenes or like funniest scene? What are we doing?
Let's do favorite scene. Just what you enjoyed most of all.
Okay, I have to shout out Hawkeye's appearance as Ronin when they first go back to him and he's just like hunting down mob bosses and killing mob bosses and just straight up murdering people and without fear of consequences and all of his friends have to come hunt him down. That is the Disney Plus series that I want to see. I want to see Ronan running around taking care of business, you know. But I have to shout out that scene because, number one, that's awesome to see. But number two, I'm pretty sure that's all a oneer. Like, that's all one shot, right? The way they move around the building and stuff and come back down. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to rewatch and see, but I think it is. Which is, I know it's a gimmicky thing, but it's always cool to see a one-shot fight scene, you know. I also have to shout out Nat's sacrifice when her and Hawkeye are up on the cliff and they have their little fight with each other on who's going to sacrifice who dies. There is a deleted scene that they released that's way different where like someone lands, like the bad guys, Thanos' guys land and they have a fight scene with those guys as they're trying to get off the rock, as they're trying to jump. But this one is so much more powerful where they're just fighting each other, you know? Who's the one that's going to take the fall and sacrifice it for the rest? Who has the most to lose? Who is the, you know, it's so cool. And Black Widow, thank goodness we're finally going to get that Black Widow movie and we're finally going to see, you know, her backstory. We've been needing this for so long.
It said so not counting Black Widow yet, but if you included her super mini cameo in Captain Marvel, that she's been in 8 Marvel films
and never had her own,
which the only person who'd been in more, I don't know if the only person who'd been in more, but the person who's been in the most is Robert Downey Jr. He's been in 10.
When are we getting a Nick Fury?
I don't know.
The Avengers was the Nick Fury movie.
The Nick Fury show, hosted by me, Nick Fury.
Which, thank goodness, he shows up at the very end, you know, along with a few other surprise characters. The kid from Iron Man 3 and...
So, okay, I guess that's a different part. Never mind.
Yeah. I do want to throw up that scene as being one of my favorites because Marvel, you know, they'll do their best to like make a moment emotional when, you know, someone's dying or anything like that. But it's very superhero-esque. It's still very action, and it's not a film that usually not a film that can evoke a lot of emotions or anything like that. And with the loss of Iron Man, which is such a huge, obviously has been in there since the very beginning. Obviously, our feelings were already all choked up when he spoke to Peter Parker, and sort of like a reflection of what happened in the first one, except for the opposite. And then when he spoke to Pepper as well.
That scene is so powerful.
It's so powerful.
The way that Pepper handles it, like giving Peter the opportunity to go up and like express himself because he's basically his like mentor, his like his Uncle Ben in this series, you know, giving him that moment where Tony's laying there on the ground like dying and Peter can say what he needs to say, and then Pepper just comes up behind him and slowly moves him off to the side. You know, she just handles it so well, as, you know, respecting Peter's feelings, but also it's to like be with her husband in his last minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like right before that, when they're battling and when they reunite again for the first time, and when Iron Man and Spider-Man reunite for the first time again, also another callback to the original Spider-Man. Yes, so Spider-Man Homecoming, a callback when they're at the very beginning of the movie when they're in the cab or the car or whatever, and he's letting him out, and he like goes to like hug him, and he's nope, that wasn't a hug, I'm just getting the door for you. Like, we're not there yet. The very first thing he does when he sees him like come back after they've been back is just going for like a huge hug and just be, because that's just who they are now, you know? Yeah. So, and then so that along with the very next sequence where Iron Man narrates the joyful reunion of everyone with their families, along with the sad mourning of his own family over his death, where he sits there and he speaks specifically to Pepper and Morgan, which one of the best additions in this movie is Iron Man, Tony Stark, finally overcoming a lot of his ego and everything and settling down, having a family and becoming a father was just amazing and beautiful. And he was so good at it. And it was like such a sad and heartbreaking thing because you could see the relationship that him and his daughter shared,
and the risk that he was going to have to take to lose all of that to save half the world. Like, that was a big thing with him, right?
He didn't want to.
Like, he's like, I came out of this a win. Like, yeah, we
like,
lost.
I got super lucky.
we lost half the life, but look what I gained, a wife and a daughter. Like, I came out lucky. I'm one of the few who came out lucky here. Why should I sacrifice that?
Fun fact. Sorry, I know I have like a million of these. So I teared up a little bit when I watched it the first time. So when he's giving that final speech, obviously they call back what he talked about earlier in the movie, where right before he turns off the camera and he's talking to Morgan, he says, "I love you 3000" again to her, right? That line was inspired by Robert Downey Jr.'s kids.
Oh, cool.
Like, I did not know. So the original script, like when he's leaving her bedroom earlier in the movie, he says, "I love you tons," and she says, "I love you tons." But apparently, and originally I looked it up and it said it was rumor, but then when I looked up and there's really an interview where he says, "Yeah, I will say, like, I love you to my kids," or something like that, and they would say, like, "I love you 3000." And so he brought that part of his own family to the script, which ended up becoming basically the most iconic line of the entire movie, that people, you can say that immediately and everyone basically in a room will get what you're talking about.
Well, and something that's really cool about just kind of going forward to the end of the movie, the last movie we have with Morgan and Happy, is probably like the cutest thing ever, because he's just happy sitting there. He's been with Tony like forever, and he's just kind of chilling out there. And he's like, "Well, here's Morgan. Like, what do you enjoy? Cheeseburgers."
Yeah.
Oh, your dad loved cheeseburgers.
The very first thing he asked for when he got out of the
cave.
prison, the cave, was a cheeseburger.
Yeah. He's like, "I'll just get you all the cheeseburgers you want." And it was like, I thought that was really cool, especially because I forget his name, like Jon Favreau, I think is. Favreau, yeah. He's a director, and he directed and starred in Iron Man, right? And so he's been with the Marvel Universe pretty much since the beginning, and he's still here, right? He's going to be in the Spider-Man trilogy, and I'm curious what they do with his character and kind of like how Happy plays forward in the universe, because I don't know like anything, so I'm excited, and I just love that so much that like he was kept in it, because like I think what we forget and what we fail sometimes to recognize is, like, I grew up in a really small rural community where like my core people were like my parents, my grandparents, and like my uncles and aunts who I hung out with, but like so many people around me like influenced my life and had such a key and vital part in my growing up. And like for Tony Stark, it was Pepper Potts, who was originally his secretary, right? Or like his
like assistant,
second in command. And then also Happy, who like literally was at his beck and call, right? Just like a driver, a butler, whatever you want to call him. Like he just did all these things, but he was just there, and Happy and him had a relationship, and they had something that was different. And so I liked how they showed that the people around you influence your life, and they feel when you succeed, but they also feel when you are gone. And so I thought that was a very touching and beautiful part.
And then the only other one I wanted to specifically call out, even though I have so many favorite parts of this movie, was, Marvel's very well known for doing a lot of cool visual effects and everything like that, but it's all very fast-paced, quick cuts and everything like that. I did love that they were willing, right before literally the biggest and most satisfying battle scene that I've ever seen in my entire life, even more so than Lord of the Rings, was just, even more so than Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Casey. Yeah. Sorry, finish your thought, and then we'll get into that.
So even more than Lord of the Rings, they took a second to pause and take literally the most beautiful shot that has been made in any Marvel movie of Captain America standing on a rock overlooking what he believes he will face alone, an entire army coming out. And this is a very like wide shot where you can just see, him as a silhouette with the sunset in the background and these dark clouds looming overhead. I even so cool. I paused it and I took a screenshot just so I could show you guys and remember the exact moment. It is gorgeous. Yeah. It is a beautiful, no matter how much of it is still CGI, it is a gorgeous shot, and I loved it. So those are a couple of my favorite scenes, even though it's so hard to pick.
It is. I agree with you, though. That scene gave me all the feels, though, right there. Especially that charge down there, when they're Avengers assemble, when they just start going and you get
when everyone's coming through the portals, the music there is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
The dun 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 dun,
yeah.
dun dun.
That's what I was gonna say. Is there's so many cool slow moments here you get with these characters in the somber tones, and then it moves into a more exciting thing and everything. You get all these great character developments, and then you get some of the most incredible fighting and choreography and action scenes out of any. Like we said, even better than Lord of the Rings. Chill-inducing fight scenes when Cap picks up that hammer for the first time. chills.
Woo!
When Cap
Everyone
says,
cheered, man.
cheering, everyone. And when Cap says Avengers Assemble, chills, excitement,
The half
energy.
shield.
You get all of the women of the Marvel universe that come together and like go out, you know, to fight, and you just see like where we've started, like you said, with this one character, Iron Man, and expanded to all these side characters and stuff. Chills, and it's just so cool. Meanwhile, Thor's running around trying and looking like a friggin' Viking or something with his giant axe trying to cut Thanos' head off again. If you pay attention, every one of his swings is for the head of Thanos. He's just trying to finish him off.
Yeah.
I did not
Chills.
notice that.
Oh, it's just so smartly choreographed. We're down to the minute detail where Cap tries to hit him with Mjolnir, and Thanos isn't worthy to hold the hammer, so he grabs Cap by the wrist instead of by the hammer and throws him off to the side. Like, details in this fight scene are just so specific.
I've been
and
wondering something about that fight scene. I was like, why didn't they just drop Mjolnir on Thanos? Like, what would have happened? Like, I'm just
People
curious.
always mention that.
But I know. But
And-
okay, like even though I gave you guys like a really silly look about like better than Lord of the Rings, like I'll admit it, this is way better than Lord of the Rings. Like, I love Lord of the Rings. Like nothing beats the Battle of Helm's Deep. Like when they come over the sunrise, right? But what an amazing thing! And you're right, like. The way that all the fight scenes in this, especially that last battle, was just done was you had everyone kind of working together in their own way, which I thought was super like cool. It was fun. And then you
used to have Spidey finally getting to play football.
Yeah.
After years of jokes of like, I'm too powerful, I have to pretend not to be good, I can't play sports, I can't play football. He finally gets to run the football down the field.
with
you know?
insta-kill going
Yeah.
on too, like activate insta-kill. And then like you're right, like that scene, I want to call it that scene where all the women of Marvel get together. Marvel's like, this is the best scene, and like I think that's really cool, and it also makes a statement for like unifying together. And like this is something that like my wife has talked to me about. Like, right, I'm no expert on anything, and I obviously can't speak for women. Like I'm speaking for myself in my opinion. But like what's really amazing is that just showed like stand together no matter what the odds are against you, and like women need to do that like when there are troubles and issues aloof, but also when they're like supporting each other. Guys need to do that too. Like humanity needs to stand for humanity, and I think that's what I got at the, like through this film was the message. Is like, right, we're like looking at all these broken characters who over the last 5 years have had to somewhat rebuild something, and like some have like really excelled and grown, and others have like stayed stagnant, but they're still kind of moving in some way. Others are eating peanut butter sandwiches and threatening to throw them at people if people are positive, right? And it's just kind of like, what's going on? But then at the end, it's like, stand for humanity, stand united, stand together, like Avengers Assemble. And it's like, humanity assemble, like let's do this. And it was like, what a way to end a film. And like we recognize when we lose one of our own too, like how sad that can be. Like, and I love that they threw it back to the very first Iron Man too, like at the scene where they have that like kind of like wake for Tony, and they like put the wreath out there, and it's proof that Tony Stark has heart. And I was like, the original Iron Man. I was like right there. But like what a way to like showcase over 10 years of movie making. And like this was the creme brulee, man. Creme brulee of so good.
Little mini favorite moment of the three guys fighting Thanos, when after Captain has started wielding Mjolnir, when he throws the shield and it like goes past Thanos, and I'm like, oh, you missed, but then he throws Mjolnir and they hit each other, and so then that reverberates sort of like it did in the first one when they were fighting, and like knocks him over.
Yeah,
it was like such a fast moment, but like that was so cool.
That was a really cool thing. I also kind of I just had a brain fart, guys. Like I'm loving this scene so much. I can't talk about. I loved, actually, this is what I was thinking about here, is when they first get in their like kind of suits, and then Clint goes back to his family and he sees his family and he gets really excited, and then they start doing their time heist essentially, and they kind of go through that whole time heist. And it was like, that was really cool, especially when they all get back together as well and Nat's gone, like just seeing the way that they were like, this is our hope. And also Dr. Hulk.
I like Smart Hulk.
I like Dr. Hulk. Yeah, Professor Hulk. That's it. I was like, what is he like, Professor Hulk? Yeah, I loved that.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Funniest moments of the movie. Can we jump to that, or do we need to?
Yeah.
No,
But I'm sure there'll
moments.
be like other things that we bring up as well, along with favorite moments, because there are too many moments in this movie
Yeah.
that will obviously not even do it justice, because we're
not gonna
to
be
be
able to
talking
cover
to
it
you
all.
guys for 6 hours. So
I got time.
funniest moments of the movie for me, the very first time at least, because afterwards you already know what's going to happen. The very first time that Rocket and Hulk walk in and see Fat Thor, you just lose it, because that was another thing that you just weren't expecting, and he's just so funny, and he's just sitting there playing video games, wanting the cable to be fixed. I and everybody just lost it.
And that gut looks so real.
It does. It's so ridiculous.
I was the body double there, guys.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, that can't be a fat suit. It looks too real. It must be CGI or something. No, it's a fat suit.
That's
It was a
amazing.
60-pound fat suit they put on him.
Can you just imagine how much more ripped Chris
It's
Hemsworth
funny
got
if,
because
if
of
you
that?
if you watch some of the like behind the scenes stuff on it. I didn't see very many of them for this one, but there was one scene where they're all watching the take of when they have that big rush down the field to the big fight at the end, and Hemsworth is running down right at the front, and like Chris Evans is sitting there laughing at how the suit like bounces, and Chris Hemsworth is like, I thought I was going so fast.
It felt like he's going so fast. And then maybe, because there's so many good one-liners and everything like that, I think my original favorite that I was talking about with people after I saw it the very first time is when Captain America is fighting himself and his older self knocks him down. He's like, I can do this all day. He's like, I know.
I know.
Such a good delivery by Chris Evans there. So many funny moments, but those are ones that I wanted to just touch on real quick.
I love the going off that fight scene right there. I just love America's ass. Like, that's such a funny thing where
That's America's ass.
That's America's ass. And like he goes in there too, and like he plays such like he plays himself, but he plays like you said, like he's grown as a person. He can bend the rules a little bit. Like he's not just so we must be on the straight and narrow. He's like, we can make this work.
He
Like,
recognizes not everything is black and white anymore.
yeah, Hell Hydra, like going for it, and like
Cool reference to the comics.
yeah, that's what like isn't there like he
There's
does
a comic run where he
goes
turns
with
out to
Hydra.
be an agent for Hydra all along. And yeah, he's part of this. So they're just referencing.
I
that.
remember like someone talking about that at one point. I was like, that's so tight. But then also another great scene I think is like when they're like, Thor, come on up here and just kind of explain everything to us. And he like goes off like, and he like tells like 4 stories in the time of telling the one thing. It's like, oh, Jane Foster and I date her, and oh, I lost
flame
my
of mine.
yeah, I lost my hammer. And like, even though that film was really sad, it was also like the way they approached it was slightly funny as well. And I think Thor scenes, like I keep talking about this, Thor scenes were the real
Yep, me too.
like home run for me throughout
Thor
this whole
knocked it out of
film.
the park in this one.
And
The taco joke was funny.
oh yeah, when it like blows out.
Yeah. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but there's just a lot of good to it.
There's so much.
I do want to shout out the cast of Communities, all of their cameos
I was
throughout
gonna
the
bring
Marvel
that
Cinematic Universe. Do you have them all where they're all at?
I don't-
because Shirley shows up in this one.
I don't know if I have all of them, but so obviously I don't know if this one is directly related or if they just got him because he was big and popular. So obviously Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, shows up in Spider-Man: Homecoming as one of the guys that
Prowler.
Yeah, the Prowler.
I don't remember his real name.
Well, yeah, because he's like the Prowler, except for he's like not
Yeah,
really
yeah.
in this one. They just bring him in really quick. So Donald Glover shows up. In this one, there are actually 2.
Oh, who did I miss?
2?
Oh, you're right.
Right, you got it. So there's 2 in this one. So obviously, Anthony and Joe Russo, they used to direct and do a lot of things for Community, one of the best TV shows ever. It's on Hulu right now. Watch it. Whoop, whoop. And there were 2 cast members who made cameos in the show. Yvette Nicole Brown showed up when Captain America and Iron Man go back in time to the base where Iron Man sees his dad and Captain America sees his to-be wife for the end. And she shows up. She's in the elevator with them, right? And so Yvette Nicole Brown is there. And then at the very beginning, where Ant-Man comes out of the van portal, Ken Jeong is the security guard who's there watching over him when he originally looks. It's very quick because you don't even see him like afterwards. You just see him.
He doesn't have any lines or
like
anything
staring at the camera, and he has like this big mustache and stuff too, and so it's very hard to. I didn't even recognize it was him until I read a thing about it later on that said it was him. So
I also have listed that Jim Rash, who plays the dean, shows up during the BARF presentation in Civil War, I think it was.
He does.
And then Abed, played by Danny Pudi, who plays Abed in Community, shows up in Winter Soldier as one of the like soldier guys up in the other thing.
I forgot those.
So, like, we just need to get Jeff in there, and played by Joel McHale, and Annie played by
Allison Brie,
and get the full. And Pierce.
Gillian,
we got to get
Chevy Chase
in
and
there.
Gillian Jacobs.
Oh right. Why did I forget?
There's still
her?
a lot, but
I guess we still have a long way to go.
We can do it. I could see Gillian Jacobs showing up being like a Russian person in Black Widow. I could see that happening.
So other than that, I just have a few. Do you guys have anything else you want to cover?
I just have a couple of the fun facts.
Okay,
I'm sure
me too,
you have some too. Here, go ahead. Do yours
start?
first. Yeah, sure. So I have one. So Community was one of my ones that I was most favorite for. I already talked about the Robert Downey Jr. and his kids. There was only one actor in the entire show who read the entire script before the movie came out because they were so worried about spoilers. And since it was filmed in such different chunks, especially with people going out on these different missions and everything like that, they were like, okay, well, just to avoid spoilers, not everyone's going to get the full script. You're just going to get what you need to know and nothing else. Guesses on who it was. By the way, you knew who it was. Casey, guess on who it was.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, even though he did know. Doctor Strange knew.
Yeah, I don't
know. Robert Downey Jr. was the only actor who read the entire script.
The only one they could trust enough, who's been there from the beginning.
Well, doesn't what's his bucket, the Spider-Man kid? Doesn't he like spoil everything?
So that's one of my fun facts.
Oh,
go ahead.
Mark Ruffalo was so bad at spilling the secrets that they made him film 5 different endings of the movie because they did not trust him to not spill the beans, because he did spill, like he in an interview told the ending of Infinity War. He straight up told everyone before the movie came out, oh, just wait till you see the next one, everyone dies. And the guy who plays Rhodey's just like, dude, come on. Like if you haven't seen that interview, it's awkward as heck, man. It's
just
so
like,
awkward.
you just what?
And then also Tom Holland didn't get the entire script, or like even the like description of what was happening in the scenes. They literally only sent him his lines, and that's it.
He went to the one that ended up being the funeral of Tony Stark, not knowing that it was a funeral. I don't remember what he said he thought it was, but he said he had no clue that it was a funeral. He's like, we're standing there, like maybe it's like a salute or like something. I don't
maybe
remember.
A wedding or something.
Oh, he said wedding. That's what it was. He's like, we thought that we were there like for a wedding and stuff. And he's like, yeah, but just like, like there's obviously like some bad stuff that's happened because it's later on, so look a little somber or something like that. And so he didn't even know that they're there at the freaking funeral for Tony Stark.
So funny.
Oh man.
Oh man. So good. I think I only have one more, and it is that. Oh, one of the main, I did not know this until I looked it up recently, and I double checked it to make sure it was true. One of the main and largest inspirations for the story of Avengers Endgame, this is near and dear to my heart, was actually the finale, like the series finale for Star Trek: The Next Generation. So if you've seen it, you can go and like watch it or remember it and see some of the similarities. If you haven't, then just you can know that as a fun fact, I guess. Because I don't want to spoil anything for Star Trek if you haven't seen it either.
Okay, I just have a couple more. One, they're kind of like, well, okay, so first off, Robert Downey Jr., according to IMDb, hid his own personal snacks all over set, and the scenes where he's eating snacks and offers them to his co-stars were all improvised because he was actually eating snacks. Much of the dialogue in the debate scene about the time travel is actually based on conversations they had with quantum scientists, so they tried to make it as accurate as time travel as they could, and in the process made fun of a lot of movies that did time travel wrong.
Back to the Future.
Lots of
Back in Time, Hot Tub Time Machine.
The quantum suits, the white suits that they wore,
that look dope.
Completely VFX. They did not make those costumes.
Really?
They are digitally created and placed over the top of the actors.
Those look so
They
dope.
look so cool.
I have like a jacket that like sort of looks like that. Not really, but sort of.
Did
looks
you get
like
one
it.
for you and your dad?
My dad bought one, and then he got it and realized that the sizes from that he ordered like ran a lot smaller. And because my dad, he's actually losing weight, he's getting skinnier than me, but he's like still like kind of taller than me. So the one he got didn't fit, and so he gave that to me, and he ordered another one.
Yeah. Okay, this is my last one, and it's a little dark, but I thought it was really interesting. The Russo brothers thought of making Thanos massacre all of the Avengers, the 2014 version of the Avengers. In a separate timeline, he would have massacred all the Avengers and decapitated Captain America, then brought the decapitated head back to the original timeline to taunt the Avengers. However, they thought it was considered too violent and too dark and decided to drop that idea.
That's like the Walking Dead status right there. That's, you're like,
can you imagine him showing up and being like Steve Rogers' decapitated head? Yeah, it was dark.
jeez.
That's a little creepy.
So let that one settle in.
And with that, we end.
And I just have one tiny nitpick. Tiny nitpick.
That is okay because
Thanos' 9 shades of color throughout this
No.
whole series?
I get that they brought everyone in for the final battle and how cool was it that everyone was there. But I have a lot of trouble believing that everybody would have showed up for this, including like Howard the Duck. Like
he was there.
why? Like Howard the Duck doesn't have a
Howard the Duck.
Wait,
was
Howard
there.
the Duck was in the fighting scene?
Yeah, if you
It's
look
like
at
in the background.
the big background where you see everybody, it's pretty much everyone who's ever been in a Marvel movie, good guy or whatever, is somewhere in that scene. And I'm just kind of like, how did you track down Howard the Duck to recruit him to come and show up? You know, it's just a little bit unbelievable. It's awesome for the fan service to see all your favorites in there, but I'm kind of like, I don't
That
know
was their
about
little
this
bit
one.
of like. That was their little bit of Star Wars style
Yeah.
filmmaking, listening to the fans and what they wanted to be able to make it.
Something I can easily look past and nerd out about it, but it's if I'm looking at it from a, that kind of
And also,
realism
if we-
standpoint, realism in a comic book movie. Like I just kind of like,
And if we look at realism, there are, of course, if we talk about nitpicks, many times where you can look at time travel in this movie and look at things that happened and say, even though like you explained this, you didn't actually explain this, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
you
the
can
time
do that
travel
a few
curse.
times. Exactly, time travel. It's just what you risk when making a movie about time travel. But because of what they did and were able to accomplish with this movie, I turn a blind eye every time.
I do as well. This movie was my 2019 movie of the year.
It was. I remember.
Yep. That's it. That's all I got.
Woo! And game.
And game.
And so now we prep
do,
for.
do, and game. And game.
No. So anyway, now we prep. So a big reason why we wanted to do this is because obviously we had the Infinity Saga, so many amazing movies throughout it, but we're prepping for Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which comes out the first weekend in May with Black Widow. Do you guys think that Marvel will ever be able to top the success that it had from the Infinity Saga?
I think it'll always be popular, but I don't think they'll be able to top it.
I'm pumped for Black Widow, but I'm like, this is no.
But it's that excitement building up around it. You don't feel that anymore.
And also, like, Black Widow has been in all of the previous movies and everything like that. And even though there are a lot of cool, like, series coming out, I'm not, like, that much into WandaVision or...
That's honestly the only one I'm really excited for, just to see what direction that takes the universe in, because I think that's the one that's going to have the most influence out of where it goes next,
Yeah. What do you think, Case?
I'm super pumped for Black Widow. I'm not gonna lie to you because I just forgot his name. The guy who's the cop.
David Harbour.
David Harbour. I like David Harbour. Like I know a lot of people didn't like this,
and
but
also Florence.
Florence Pugh.
yeah. You guys are jumping ahead of me here,
Sorry,
guys.
but,
Come
like,
on now.
Florence Pugh
got
and
us excited.
ScarJo are my two biggest celebrity crushes, and they're going to be in a movie together.
Well,
Sorry.
you're gonna love that fight scene that's in the preview.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm excited about it. I think David Harbour is going to be awesome. I really liked him in Hellboy, and so like seeing his kind of career continue now, because I was like worried that was going to be and like call it, but I am really excited about this, and I'm curious to see where they go, but I don't think they can top this. Like unless like somehow over the next 2030, next time we talk about this in our next episode about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, another 10 years later,
when they have Avengers versus Justice League, because Disney will have bought WB.
And guess what? That means we'll get more Aquaman.
As long as it's Marvel making it.
But yeah, I'm excited. I enjoyed it. I don't know, Josh, what do you think?
I don't know. I think I don't think we've ever really seen something. I'm not saying as good as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but something that can put so many different movies together in such a masterful way that gives credit to each one of the heroes within it while also creating a larger story and giving the fans what they want while also doing something really smart and extremely entertaining. I don't think there's ever been like a final movie to a saga or anything that has wrapped up anything as amazingly as Endgame did. And I remember, because you get hyped up for it and everything like that, but then so many times you can just walk out of a movie being like, yeah, okay, that was good, but it was whatever. I walked into Endgame with the highest expectations I could ever have, and that's not something you want to do a lot of times for movies because you can be let down, and I left without being let down a single bit. And while, like we said, there's still nitpicks and stuff and everything, I walked out of that theater that night on the very opening night just completely satisfied. Just thank you, Marvel, for 10 years, 23 movies that just have been amazing.
And that's the end of our Endgame episode. It was great having you guys like vote and help us kind of decide. Obviously, Vince and Josh called it from the beginning. We all kind of knew, but it was fun to see who you liked. And please let us know in the end what you thought about Endgame. Give us kind of your thoughts. Give us some feedback. Let us know, like, did Endgame deserve, or does Endgame deserve all the praise it's received? Because, seriously, amazing film. But there might be haters out there. If you're one of them haters, let us know. Also, if you're one of the lovers, also let us know. And once again, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Josh, do you have anything else?
Yeah, just so obviously because of a little, some little personal stuff that we had to do. Obviously, we were originally supposed to do Onward this week, but we were able to do Endgame this week, and next week we are going to be doing Onward. So take two of the people from the movie we're talking about this week, throw them into an animated fantasy Pixar world, and let's see what comes out.
You have Guardians of the Spider-Man.
Perfect.
All right, everyone. Thank you as always for tuning in. Let us know what your thoughts. Join us on social, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and find us on our website at prppodcast.com.